There are more than 1,400 acres of public parks and open space in the city of Lakeville. Whether it's spending a hot day cooling off at Antlers, learning about the Korean War at Aronson, or enjoying one of the newest trails at East Lake, Lakeville has built a great park system for people to enjoy. The largest and arguably best park is one that many have never visited. In today's History Moment, we take a look back at the origins of Ritter Farm Park. The land at Ritter Farm Park was first farmed by the Tingley family, who purchased the land from the government in the 1800s. Throughout the years, various owners have made a living off this land, with the Christensen family operating Oak Hills Farm from 1942 to 1950. The farm had many buildings, including 2 houses, many barns, and a cistern that still stands today. In 1950, siblings David, Alma, and Rosetta Ritter and a man named Walter Hink purchased the farm for $18,000. They changed the name of the farm to Ritter's Guernsey Garden Farm. Now, one would think that the Ritters operated the farm. Actually, the Ritters never did. They bought the property as an investment. Others operated the farm and paid rent for use of the land and buildings. The Ritters continued to live there until the idea came to turn the farm into a city park. Longtime Lakeville resident Ed Mako describes where the idea came from.
I was elected to the village council, which was the 1 square mile where the present downtown Lakeville is situated. And Leo Aronson was the mayor at that time. And one day we were cruising around looking at some things. He said, "I want to show you something." And we came in and we visited the Ritters. And then we walked around part of the farm at that time. And he said, "I always thought this would be a nice park." And when he said it, it stuck in my brain. This place has got to be an area for the public. But it was out of our jurisdiction. There was nothing we in the village could do about it because it was in the township.
In 1967, Lakeville Township merged with the village of Lakeville, making it possible for Lakeville to acquire the land. And in 1971, it was time for the city to purchase the farm.
We requested federal and state funds. There were programs out that would help to buy land for open space. We applied for some of those. And both the feds and the state became interested in this land. In the meantime, however, there were a private developer or 2 who also became interested, and they were thinking of developing something like North Oaks, an enclosed community. And that really was getting support because you're talking about taxes. But I could see that this land would never be available, and we should still fight that. And then there was a split on the council. Not all of the council, it was never publicly fought over, but not all the people there thought the park was a better idea. But anyway, when the feds were interested, they sent a representative here, and he and I walked throughout the whole park, and I pointed out different things to him, and he fell in love with the place. He really thought, "Man, we can't let this go." And I said, "Well, how much can we expect?" He said, "Well, the grants come up with 50% of what the money would be." I said, "Well, that still leaves a lot of money trying to vote a bond issue for it. He said, but your state is interested, and we will tell them that we're interested, and they will come up with 50% of the remaining. So all that leaves for Lakeville is a quarter of the price. Well, then the negotiations started with Ritter, real negotiations, and his sisters were still doing well health-wise, and what they wanted was a piece of the park to stay there till they either went into nursing homes or they died. We had this money, we filled out the papers, we worked at it, and then it was time to put it up for a bond election. And at that time, I was running against an opponent for the mayorship. Now, the city council agreed to having an election, but the other council members would not support and come out and say, we support the park, we encourage you to vote for it. We had the election, and the bond issue went down on a few votes, and my opponent beat me by quite a bit more. Well, then, being the gentleman that he was, he came to me and he said, Ed, we'd like you to continue as the chair of the bond issue. And I agreed. I agreed because I believed it was something worthwhile. And we still had private money that was trying to buy this. So then when the legal time passed, when you could re-vote on a bond issue, we put it up again. This time the present mayor at that time and all of the council publicly supported, and it passed.
With the passing of the bond referendum in the spring of 1972, the city purchased the 314-acre farm for $400,000, and the surviving Ritters were able to stay on a portion of the property until they passed away, with Alma Ritter staying there until 1989. At that time, many of the old farm buildings were still standing, but in the early 1990s, most were torn down, except for the old silo, the cistern, and one of the farmhouses, which was remodeled into the Environmental Learning Center. In 2005, the city honored Ed Mako for his work by naming the Environmental Learning Center after him.
The one thing that I really off and on have been asked to support was to keep it a natural park. There are folks who wanted to put baseball diamonds and football fields and so forth, and each time that came up, Steve Michaud and myself would oppose it. For one thing, Lakeville has some of the best fields for that kind of activity all over the place. And so I'm very happy to go over there, and it is still a natural park.
Throughout the years, there have been many park improvements to include park shelters, hiking, horse and skiing trails, and even an archery range. Today, the park is 340 acres of rolling hills, groves of mature trees, and pristine lakeside waterways.
Yes, I saw it as, you look at your life and you think, have I done anything worthwhile? Have I put my energies into anything worthwhile? And I feel a personal amount of pride that I didn't let it slide by, that I kept at it. And granted, there were all sorts of other people who had pieces in there. And I certainly would, one person doesn't do it alone. But I'm glad that I was in a position to keep it moving. Lakeville has done a fantastic job at preserving Ritter Park.